You're live.
Oh, was it?
So, this is the Senate, Conference Committee on, or the House and Senate Conference Committee on, the 944, the T bill. It's Wednesday.
Thursday.
Thursday. And I don't know what date it is, but, at this point, we're gonna dive into this. We've had some conversations about that. Do you wanna, how do you wanna do this?
Yeah, no, I sort of can lead the charge if, or unless if Matt wants to. Yeah, we met today and I think we decided to sort of start checking some of these off. And I think we came to an agreement on, a handful of those. And Damien, if you want to point me to where the first one is.
Yeah, I'm sort of following this
Yeah.
side by side, the simple side by side.
Right, if you look at the sort of simple breakdown, skip past the mileage-based user fee to the transportation program. And my understanding is that the House is tentatively okay with accepting the.
And can we get copies?
Oh,
My,
okay.
iPad's upstairs.
Wait, which one? The, that.
The 4-page one.
Yeah.
Oh, she has it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, so the first thing was the swapping out money of the tip fund. That's a procedural thing. It gives confidence that if we do ever go out with the bond, getting that the dedicated towards 30-year or longer running projects. So that's amenable to us.
And is that in here, Damien?
It is, so that would be found in sections 4 and 5 in the draft in front of you. Section 4 begins on page 8, and then section 5 begins on page 9.
And, on this short, it's on page 3.
Yes.
Transportation program in the middle of the page, just in under it. So 1.75 in tip funds in lieu of transportation funds for state highway bridges.
So what we're fine with swapping out that money, what is still in play is obviously where that 1.7 million goes. I think we're comfortable doing the district leveling, but that is predicated on with something that's in our control, the 3 million of pilot money going towards town highway program, which we would like to see. Is that fairly accurate, Chair Walker?
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Representative Corcoran, we agree with the construct in yours is better, but on that part of moving the money, but we're not prepared to leave without help for town highways in some form. And if it happens in that other program or it happens here, we are completely committed to finding additional help for our towns to deal with the situations that they're in.
I would.
As I'm sure you are.
Well, I would say that it is in the big bill, the appropriations bill on the Senate side. And if we could get the House to just say yes, we'd love that.
Well, in this case, I find us in agreement there.
It's kind of an awkward situation.
Yeah, we're all tied together. So the next section was.
So those are the first, this first piece right here.
Yep.
Yeah, those first 3.
Yeah.
Well, all of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then with the middle one, the allocation for statewide district levelings being predicated on
Yep.
The $3 million in pilot funds going to town highway aid in the big bill.
Okay.
So then if you turn to the last page, the next area where there's agreement is the Drive Electric Vermont, the extra $50,000 in Senate position. which was part of that 1.7 and 1.75 transfer. And so that is in the bill. Let's see. Wrong. That's a wrong draft here. I apologize.
While we did concur with that, obviously we had some concerns about that in general. And Chair Walker, I don't know if you want to sort of talk about the sort of our heartburn on that with the testimony that we received.
I think that I'd like to mention two things. Representative Burke, in her 18 years, has been a huge and steadfast proponent, and she advocated heavily for it in committee most of her years, including this one. The other side of many members of the committee is a kind of a reminder that there was a significant reduction in force in the fall of last year, and another significant reduction of force in the agency this year. And we took testimony from Drive Electric that they would continue to work with and partner with the agency, and they would be able to continue with the level of service and their employees to make it through the year. So that's where the rub or the concern, but they've done long years of partnership, and like I said, many of our members are our membership is split on this in our committee. So, but I felt that I wanted to, and I appreciate the opportunity to reiterate that we're making some really difficult. The agency is making some incredibly difficult personnel decisions, and I think that reminding ourselves when we go through this conference committee of that is important. And with that, we do concur with the Senate's position on this Drive Electric. But I wanted to use the opportunity to remind how serious it is for those that do not have employment with the agency anymore. And we felt that we wanted to move forward.
I think we totally appreciate that. We'll put all of this under the category that hoping for the best in the budget.
Yeah.
But generally agreed upon in that. I would say that we totally agree with them. We took testimony and was very interested in listening to a young mother who was an engineer who had a 2-month-old that lost her job, and that was difficult testimony to me too. Okay.
So the next changes or next areas of agreement are found in the section 33, which is on page 28 of your bill. And this is the public transit demand response, non-emergency medical transports. So there was language proposed by Jamie Fian to clarify that the grants are competitive and that the mobility management activities be intended to reduce costs related to non-emergency medical transports. And with that, my understanding is the parties are in agreement. And then in section 34 on the next page, going on to page 31.
Before we move on, just curious, is that been settled in the big bill, that 300,000, or is that still in play?
All the AOP parts are not settled. There is a block for weight.
Okay, so technically this may or may not change depending on the outcome. Okay.
So we have the policy there, hopefully the funding.
Yeah.
Will follow. Well,
Okay.
I mean, I'll just sort of speak to that. This is an important piece of our public transportation, this transport, using as many volunteers as possible. So hopefully we'll securing.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that the language in there is contingent on amounts being appropriated. So if the amount is 0,
Well, this.
yeah.
Is this also on the side by side?
It's
It is,
right here,
yep, so we're in the Senate only provisions at this point.
page 4.
Yeah.
And on the bottom, it's only on the Senate side.
Yeah,
Let's find it. Senate only provisions on page 4. The first one.
so,
I would just say that, with the Medicaid cuts that the state's going to face and the contraction of services in rural Vermont, being able to recruit more drivers is going to be imperative.
And I think we took some good testimony in that they're finding some efficiency pieces, actually bringing some of the scheduling right into the medical services so that they help schedule in a more efficient way. So, okay, good.
Sure, can I ask, who did you say this language is not being proposed by either the House or the Senate conference?
so the language was requested after it passed the Senate, by Jamie Fian, who, represents the Public Transit Association.
But isn't it kind of, so, but did one of the conferees want the language or we?
Yeah, no, I suggested it. Yeah. No, he just didn't come in. Yeah, no, it was good.
Okay.
Sorry, yes, so this morning, I met with Representative Corcoran and Senator
Just wanted to
Westman
make sure.
to go over proposed changes. Yeah, anything that is changed in here, with the exception of some formatting changes that I made, technical changes, which I'll highlight in a moment, were requested at that meeting this morning.
Yeah. And they, because they don't have any position.
Yeah.
So the next is the real-time status of publicly available EV chargers. And after the Senate version passed, ChargePoint contacted the Senate and the House and requested that the date be pushed out from September 30th, 2026 to January 1, 2027. And this morning, with that change, I was asked to include that. And then finally, the last section where there is agreement is the language around installation of chargers at common interest communities. And again, after it moved out of the Senate, there was a request that was submitted to the Senate, and I'm not sure if the House received this or not, to extend the deadline for when something is deemed approved from 60 days to 90 days to reflect the challenges that small common interest community boards have in reviewing these requests. And then, I'm sorry, there is one other change that was agreed to this morning. So the discussion this morning was around, if you remember, the Senate bill included the late addition of 10 sections of technical corrections requested by the Public Utility Commission. Those have been narrowed down to 5 sections, repealing the provisions related to log drives, because we no longer have log drives in the sense, in the state, and anything in those waters needs an A&R permit. And the request to repeal it came from Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation. The other changes that I just want to note, I eliminated all of the deleted sections in the Senate bill. And in the Caledonia County State Airport section, I eliminated provisions that weren't being changed just to shorten up the draft. In the original draft, I kept the full language for context. And then the effective date section has been cleaned up to take out continued and delayed effective dates.
Just to be clear, we eliminated the 5 sections that were related to log drives. The other 3 sections, it was indicated that that they might like some testimony on it for that, so we took those sections out. that's what's being.
What do you mean you took about?
They aren't in the bill.
Yeah,
So
so
we left it in the log rolling or whatever it's called.
log drive,
There was one that dealt with the railroad issue.
railroad taxes. So yeah, House Ways and Means took testimony on
Don't
that.
do, that it was suggested that they might need testimony on
Be
that.
at the very end of the side by side.
You know, it's pretty straightforward.
It does, I don't know, Chair Walker, I mean, we didn't really take any testimony and, anytime you deal with
This
PUC,
one here. And
who knows
then,
what can, I mean, it seems technical, but yeah.
and then the prior page, these three. So I don't know if
We can, have further discussions.
They had come to us late in the process of building the T-bill and coordinating for areas a little bit outside of our area. We chose not to take it up, and it's sort of out of our range on some of it and the depth. And so I don't have any testimony to back it up as to what we should or what. So we did not take it on, and I'd be more comfortable leaving it out because we didn't. But yeah, more history and experience. I'm not gonna. I just thought as long as everybody's comfortable telling another area what to do.
You see,
That's
like
why we
nobody,
didn't take it out.
nobody is. When we took testimony and there's no opposition to it, they've asked for several years. I mean, it doesn't hurt them because nobody's actually coming to them for it, but
We can leave it open, we'll just agree on the long one and we can circle back.
yeah, I understand.
Because we're not signed. We can come back.
I'd like to get it cleaned up, but if you
Yeah.
really feel like you have to.
Like I said, as Chair Walker said, I don't think there's any hard feelings, we just really didn't delve into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I don't think this is going to hold. If we're not going to
Yeah, I get it.
hold a hard position on this, we're going to sort of defer to the work that you did. And if it's a clearly clerical in nature, we would want to, help them get it off the books or get it moved forward. So I just guess I want to be clear that we didn't delve into it. We're leaning towards your position and the work that you did.
That's a question about the 90 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Page 36. So again, the way this is being presented is confusing when you mention other people submitting language that's.
So again,
Clear if it was the House conferees that is submitting this 90-day thing.
this language was requested first in the Senate. I'm not sure if a request went to the
I don't
House.
think it matters who was requested. The question is right now, who's suggesting to change the bill as passed by the Senate?
The language, that 90-day change came out of the discussion this morning. So when I was discussing with Representative Corcoran and Senator Westman this morning, I asked, do you want to include the change from 60 to 90 days? My understanding was yes, they did want to include that.
Okay.
So this was requested by, I think the committee received an email on this from Christina, forgetting her last name, the attorney who represents a number of these communities.
I think it was just more of a dialogue, I don't think, Senator Westman or myself said, opposed it, was just more looking at it, did it make sense?
Right.
Let me say
I guess I find it a strange way of doing a conference committee, so I'm just having difficulty with the way it's being presented. I have no problem with it, but I'll we can talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is it for the changes proposed or that are in this draft. There, you'll notice on page 13, there are 10 or 12 placeholder sections for transportation infrastructure bonds and mileage-based user fee. And that is all subject to your discussion and agreement or not on those sections and how you decide to move forward. And again, this is a working draft, so if you change your mind, I will change the draft.
Okay.
Did you get a chance in the House to meet on the Carfax report.
We did, after hearing the testimony, I think the overall sentiment was something that, we couldn't support.
You don't want to support.
The committee did not want to.
Okay.
Do we have support?
But
Why?
Yeah, well, it's just something I don't think it's in the purview of, AOT, to do that work as far as, the liability aspect of it, I think the heart of this amendment is to hold somebody's feet to the fire, and it's hearing like Carfax, it's just like, it's a piece of a puzzle. It's a piece of one, of bigger information. And to sort of narrow down saying that whatever defect in that car may or may not have been there, to hold them responsible is probably not a good path even to go down in the first place. So I think just there was heartburn over that. This,
So the jurisdiction.
well, just sure thing, it's just hard to pinpoint when somebody works on a car. It's like what information is shared with Carfax or whoever these companies are that share this information with the general public that, somebody's working on a car, they're not calling up Carfax, you said, I did X, Y, and Z on my car, and then potentially hold them liable because it wasn't disclosed in Carfax. I just say it's a bigger thing outside of what AOT, I think.
It's more of a consumer protection thing and not
Yeah.
within the agency, I think, investigate. this.
Yeah.
And we'll see if there are any issues.
Well, we'll, I think, talk about that. Yeah. Particularly, for consumer protection pieces, when you raise that, it's the consumer who's getting taken. And for that testimony we had, and it happened to be one of my constituents. She had requested the history of the vehicle, and she purchased a vehicle based upon what she had, and there wasn't it didn't turn out to be accurate information, and the consumer felt taken advantage of. So the question is, how in the future are we going to, would we get any information to better understand this? And so, but personally, it's something I would go to the mat for, but I think we felt there is an issue. That was what we talked about this morning, and I do have to admit that I didn't consult with my so on this, but we're under some pressure to move this, and it's a little awkward the way trying to get us together with all the other conference committees going on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have two outstanding issues with the miles base and the volume piece that we didn't really discuss, but it's I'm not sure we're gonna leave it off because the timing of it all. It's like one with the budget miscellaneous tax bill and us. Is there a time frame like in your budget like you're anticipating or?
Well, the budget will be the one bill the fastest.
Yeah, well, I'm
Can't wait for that.
is that oh no, well, I mean like before I know, but I think they're gonna happen quickly to get.
I think it's gonna happen when the education transformation gets an agreement, then it'll just pass. So when it gets passed, it'll happen quickly.
So I think the first thing is maybe, I think like one domino has to fall, or at least for the pilot. So maybe we can sign that. And I don't know when that piece.
Right. Well, we're waiting. Like the House conferee said they were still talking about it, maybe talking to you guys. So
yeah,
if you could find out if the House conferee agreed to that, then we can close that out. And then we could say it's at least closed. So that's second.
So we put the proposal on the table that I think you want.
Mhm.
So we're waiting for them to say yes to it.
Yeah. And is there a proposal again outside of our purview, but is there going to be language that the miscellaneous tax bill can look at regarding purchase and use? Or no?
I don't know.
Because I think ultimately, I think that's what maybe priorities.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Okay.
I think there is a shadow out there around purchase and use.
Yeah.
I think you have probably received the same letter.
Yeah.
I've seen the letter that the administration sent. And they're concerned about purchase and use. And I mean,
I think it's shared, but to get to the end of the light at the end of the tunnel, yeah, I guess it all comes together. You know, I know the budget's the last one, but that might be at the 11th hour, we're at the 10th hour. Yeah. So,
Well,
yeah.
as we're trying to see those pieces that we don't all fully control come together, I might suggest, if I could right now, that related to the bonding piece and the idea of the creation of a budget related to bonding, I've been in some communication and whatnot with the agency and looking at, if I understand your goal around the bonding is looking at what our capacity might be and what additional projects we might, and if that's not, we wanted to touch base a little bit on the goal of why the sections around bonding. I'm concerned about the amount of work, but I'm really much on board. I am very much on board with the idea of how do we drive the conversation about what's the capacity and what other ways could we be possibly financing, and would that increase more activity in transportation? If that's the direction you're sort of going, I've been working a little bit with the agency on a potential counter language to sections 13 and 14. And if you had a comment on the bonding, I'd like to then perhaps send over some piece that might be an adjustment that we'd be more comfortable with in that area. If you could kind of comment on what your main goals for section 13, 14 are.
so I have,
Okay, so it's in one sentence, it's additional revenue and appropriate revenue. More projects for long time projects, like bridges and big projects. Revenue has been our issue for years, and so this is the way to address that. We have some just samples of payment. We had good testimony from the treasurer's office and that particular entity and folks who do the bonding currently. We would use the same once a year CDAC method to determine what is financially reasonable for the state to borrow. Currently, we borrow for the capital bill. There was a proposal. I don't know if it's still happening for education.
Yeah.
But we've looked at all of those in total. So if we do transportation bonding, it doesn't hurt capital bill. It doesn't hurt it's fine. And in transportation, it's a different type of bond too. It's not a geo bond. So the only type of impact on staffing we knew was in the treasurer's office. And that's why they wanted us to, if we're going to start, not to start too soon. They need some time to gear up. So it's interesting to hear about DFC or what's my other committee, the agency AOT, and my understanding of their concern is that they're concerned about the initial study essentially, and comparing the two methods of funding. To me, it's pretty clear that bonding makes sense. The total amount that we would spend, there's a sample scenario that we can go through over years is the same essentially. We get more done. We solve problems now. We pay in the long run so that future users pay as well as existing users. It's just a responsible way to fund transportation, and it's not something novel. It's, you know, it's something that's been done.
Sure. No, that's good to hear. And like I said, I don't think we're opposed to bonding. We're opposed to the burden that might put on administration creating two of these, white books. But, we can talk about that. But another, section you had in there relating to bonding was basically giving the agency authority to bond with our approval. Just curious why that language, they could do that now.
I believe so, yes.
No, I'm just saying, is that?
I was thinking that it might not be,
Yeah,
but it might be. I mean, we should talk to the treasurer.
well, I mean, that's what they do now, they propose, and then we dispose or, but anyways, that's
Well,
a little side out.
Yeah, we still have the tip fund,
No,
but
right.
that's existing, but,
Yeah.
but actually going out for.
But again,
New
the same
debt.
process, they could suggest that and we would have to do it, but anyways.
Yeah, and
that's-
that's something we can talk
Yeah.
about,
But,
the treasurers.
I think now
I
we're,
would say one of the things that we don't know is this is the year where the federal transportation bill, the 5-year bill, will happen in the next calendar year.
Yeah.
And this 5-year bill sunsets on the end of September. And sometime in the next 6 months after that, hopefully, it could be longer, but if history is any measure, it will be sometime within the next 6 months of that, a bill will come through. One of the only things Congress, both Democrats and Republicans have seemed to be able to agree on in the last dozen years is infrastructure. And both parties have been supportive of that. If a bill was put forward, and given the constraints we've got with not being with the purchase and use discussion or whatever, it doesn't look like new revenue is coming to transportation other than maybe purchase and use or something like that. So that being the case, what are our tools? Bonding for us at least look like a potential tool that we should look at and make sure that we have the information next January and whoever's here next January has the information to be able to move ahead. So the structure of all of that, I think we're open to talk about, but we need the information to be able to move ahead just in case. And we have, as you've heard, members that are better versed than I am from an institution committee position that would think this is a proper way to go. And I would agree that having the information about this is very important for us to at least consider.
and that's well understood. I think there's a path forward where we can probably accomplish that goal, and at the same time not overburden the administration basically with 2 white books. But as Chair Walker said, he has some language that he's been working on, and in our next meeting, we can maybe submit that.
I think that's the direction. I think that the conversation about how you do things at today's prices and not tomorrow's is what it sounds like to me. What I also say though, that I haven't been on the committee that long, and when I first got here, all the talk was about how excited everybody was that we paid off the bonds and that we've been operating 4 or 5 years without them. So I don't think we need to solve that part. I do think we need to have this conversation about more action sooner. So Senator Harrison, I appreciate you sharing where you're coming from. I think that we're all on board with it. How do we discuss getting more done and the right way to pay about it? So if it's possible, then I will send out what we've been working on and see if it accomplishes the same thing while coming in with the concerns that I've been hearing. So that would be my next step, was to send it and see if we can get the goal and involve the treasurer's office and understand what's already laid out there and bring that presentation to both committees for next year and bring that potential options. in a way that works. So I will, if you can, if that sounds, I will send out a counter proposal, I guess, to the language that tries to accomplish the same thing with the feedback that I've been getting.
I think we're in agreement. I mean, there are times when you bond, you might borrow money to fix the roof on your house. Yeah, there might be projects that, by repairing them sooner or upgrading them sooner is going to save money. And certainly some flood resiliency projects that, we might not be able to do right now. And we might be able to pull those forward. So it's a tool in the box. And I think what you're saying is let's pull the tool out and see if it fits.
Right, okay. So I'm glad you brought up your house, because that's a fundamental difference between like a mortgage and a bond, a government bonding, because you should be happy when you pay your mortgage, right? That's or burn it if you ever have a paper one anymore. But that is a good thing for your family, because now you reduce debt. But for a government, debt is not necessarily a bad thing if you use it carefully. Again, because we have future, people who aren't here now who are going to be using those bridges, and they get to pay. It's a way to diversify who's paying, and just financially it makes sense, because we're not a one family. You might think you're a family, but we're a government. And it's our responsibility, and this is a way to just do what needs to be done.
At that, I think
Just play it by ear. Maybe, I don't know if you want to meet this for this, when we get the language, if they're screaming at
if
that,
we
just wait.
did have that language, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
And we'll, at this point, if you take us offline, we will,
Do you want to schedule another meeting or not?
I would think that, can you do tomorrow morning?
Yes, the earlier the better.
8:30?
That's fine.
Okay.
All right.